Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Systems for Sanity. I have my guest today, Michael Windsor, and he is the owner and operator of Massage Works Therapy Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Michael, can you get started by telling us how you got started in massage therapy and what brought you, what genuine interest did you have in the field and how you got started?
It's kind of a long story. I went to college and I went to Purdue. And when I started taking classes there, I was studying computer science. And then um, I actually didn't do very well. Ended up failing out of college. And then I had been interested in massage at that time, and this one was like '96, and so at that time I went ahead and took some classes on massage, and it was an interesting thing at that point in time in my life when I took those classes. I kind of came to the conclusion that at that point, anytime I had given somebody a massage, it was somebody I cared about, and I was giving a part of me to them. And I got this kind of idea that if I was giving a part of me to somebody and getting paid for it, it was kind of like prostituting my soul. And so I decided I actually quit the massage school and actually went back to school and got a degree in computer information systems and became a network administrator. And over the course of time, I met my wife at the time, and she was in school and became a physical therapist. And she would come home on a daily basis and talk to me about how she was helping people and making difference in people's lives. And it made me start thinking about, wait a minute, maybe I had the wrong idea as far as massage goes. And at the time, I'm a relatively intelligent person, and so I'm able to figure out computers. I'm not really a true computer geek. I don't live, eat, and breathe computer stuff. And so I ended up going back to school and getting my degree. Well, at that point in time, I actually had a master's degree in business because I continued down kind of like that path or whatever. But it wasn't fulfilling. With people, when I help a person, you just feel the difference when you make a difference in a person's life. With a computer, it was frustrating. I have to, reboot and do all sorts of things as far as the computer goes, but I didn't get that feeling that I get from actually helping a person. So that's when I went ahead and went back to school and I got, I just got a certificate in massage. And then it was kind of interesting how things worked. I was doing some massage, and I was actually working in my wife's clinic because she had her own physical therapy business, and I was doing massage out of her place. And then an opportunity came around where there was a local school that was starting a massage program, and schools, they like people that have degrees because schools and degrees kind of go together. So even though I didn't have a ton of experience in massage at that time, I did have a master's degree. And so I ended up getting a job there where I was teaching massage and also other classes. I was teaching information systems and teaching business classes. So I was teaching massage and business classes. And then I hired somebody that owned a massage business in town to be one of my instructors. And we would go to lunch periodically, and she would talk to me about how she owned these massage businesses in town and how she wasn't making any money. And so at some point in time, she talked to me about potentially buying her massage business. And I was like, why would I want to own a massage business that doesn't make any money?
Good question.
So I wasn't all that interested in it at the time. But then my position got eliminated at the school. And all of a sudden I was like, maybe owning a massage business wouldn't be such a bad idea. I mean, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I mean, I know how to do a wide variety. I have a degree in information systems. I can do massage. I can do a wide variety of different things. So anyway, I talked to one of my friends that was a business owner, and we kind of went over the numbers of what she was presenting to me. And I made the plunge. And I bought the business about 11 years ago. She had two locations. I bought one location. Her business manager at the time ended up buying the other location. The person that bought the other location spent more money on it because she ended up keeping the name. I had to come up with my own name. And fast forward 6 years, that other person went out of business, and I've got two locations now. And it's been really, yeah, it's kind of cool. One of the people that originally had worked at this location didn't know me, didn't when I was, and so they actually left right before I took over the business and went and worked for her out at that location. And then when she closed down, he reached out to me about coming back over here. And then he ended up working for me for about 3 years, and he just retired last May. But the whole time he's like, Michael, I wish I had, stayed here the whole time and that sort of thing. So I mean, essentially what I've tried to do here is I just try to do good, like just do good. Like so I want if I can't build a successful business doing good, then I might as well just go get a job somewhere. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When we started franchising SD Tech, that's a big step in the growth of any business, but you also have to be very careful about who you bring in as franchisees because you're basically getting into a marriage with that person. So that franchisee is going to be integrated into your business for the next 10 years. So it's important that you value match with that person to make sure you all are both on the same page. So I love the values that you bring to the business that you talk about wanting to be there to help people. Obviously you own a business, so you need to make money, right? But you can make money and you can still help people at the same time. And I think that's fantastic. I love hearing about that.
Yeah. So for me, the first thing I realized, or as far as the massage business goes, is the therapists are kind of like the engine of the business, And so
Yep.
like, I mean, for the first 5 years of having this business, and when I really look back, I mean, I have a master's degree in business, but there's a big difference between having a business and having a master's degree in business. I didn't know anything.
That's fair.
I didn't know anything. And so when I was looking at the income statement of the previous owner or whatever, the bottom line is for the first 5 years, I probably made about $20,000 a year. And um, my wife was like supporting us basically. And she was kind of like, when are you going to start making money on this business? She kind of thought it was more of a hobby. My
Yeah.
thought process behind it was at that point in time, I had like, let's just say 7 therapists that were working for me, maybe 8 therapists that were working for me. And the thing is, there's a certain amount that you have to like, as far as all the bills and stuff, like just to break even. But once you get to let's just say the 8th therapist and the 9th therapist and the 10th therapist and the 11th and the 12th, then it starts to be profit essentially. And so what I was doing is I was paying my therapist, and I still do pay my therapist better than anybody else in town. With the idea being is to try and attract a good therapist. And so when I first took over this business, like I said, I probably had about 7, maybe 8 therapists that were working for me. And at this point, I've got about 20 to 25 therapists that work for me. And so, but it's because I've built a reputation in town that people know that I pay better than anybody else in town. And I basically, I, with my therapist, they're the business. And so I treat them like gold, this is a funny story. So there's another massage place in town that in 2020, they've been in town for like 20 years or so. And so I got this message on Facebook, and it said, requested message. And I was like, what's a requested message? I've never even heard of that before. Well, it turns out it was the owner of a different place in town that was sending me a message, and it said, hey, Michael, I noticed that you're doing a really good job of getting therapists. What's your secret? And I was like, well, I mean, in all honesty, I treat them like gold. I mean, I just, I work to try and make sure that whatever they need as far as their schedule goes, I'm keeping their schedule taken care of. I provide everything. I provide lotion. Like, for example, different therapists like different things. Some therapists like cream, some therapists like oil, some therapists like lotion. And so I have a cream and a lotion and an oil, and they don't have to provide any of that stuff. I have one of each for them. I have a front desk staff, and I use a group me so that everybody can like send a message. It's like if you're not going to be able to make it in today, they can post group
Hmm.
me, and then my front desk people can work on making sure their not employees, but their customers are aware of what the situation is. And so I provide cards, I provide the ability for people to book online. I mean, I get to do all a therapist needs to do here is come to work, do a good job, and go home. They don't have to. I mean, if they're the last person of the night, maybe they might shut down the room. But one of the things that we do in the morning is we come in and get all the rooms set up. so that basically all the therapist has to do is come here. They might have to fill up, they might have their own individual little things of lotion or cream or oil. So they might have to fill that up for themselves. But then they just look at the schedule and, they can just get started. So it was just funny that this other person in town, and then I found out that they were only paying a much lower commission. They were requiring people to bring their own linens and their own lotions. And I was like, well, that's not, that's basically you're basically your own business at that point in time. I mean, what are they actually
Yeah.
even providing? So I mean, essentially, my theory as far as business goes is that my job is to be the most desirable place for a massage therapist in this area to want to work. And if one of my people decides to go somewhere else, that means I failed. I'm not doing a good job of making this place the most desirable place. So, if a person, doesn't feel like I'm doing a good enough job and wants to go somewhere else, that means I'm not doing my job, what I should be doing. So that's kind of how I look at it. I just try to do the best I can. So a lot of people don't know it's hard to be a massage therapist. So like, in most jobs, like let's just say you want to make a little bit extra money. So you want to put in a little bit of overtime, so like maybe you normally work 40 hours a week, but to make a little bit of extra money, you can work 45 or 50 hours a week and make a little bit extra money. But as a massage therapist, the maximum amount of massages a person is going to do a week is about 30. So if you think of it in terms of hours of work a week, the maximum amount of hours a massage therapist is going to work a week is about 30 hours. And if you think of in terms of like other types of jobs, I mean, I'm having to try and help a therapist be able to make a living off of 30 hours a week versus other people could work 40 or more hours a week. So,
Right.
I'm always looking for ways to try and help my therapist be able to generate more revenue and put more money in their pockets. And that's just my philosophy is that I'm trying to make this as I am trying to help my therapist that only, have a part-time job be able to make a living doing it. Which is an interesting dynamic. So I've struggled with this a little bit. I mean, definitely, I'm trying to take care of customers, but my kind of thought is if I'm hiring and keeping therapists, then when the customers come in, that's going to keep the customers coming in. So my biggest focus is, on trying to have and keep good therapists, and the customers will come and stay. So that's kind of been my philosophy behind it but also, one of the things I struggle with, and I think a lot of places struggle with, is marketing, trying to figure out, what is the best way to spend your money? Is it, is it Facebook? Is it Google? Is it print? Is it TV? What I've found is when you're talking about marketing, like let's just say I'm talking to a radio person about marketing. I'll say, how should I
Right.
know if I should spend $5 or $5,000? Because they'll say, I'll say, well, how can I measure, what this is doing for me? And they'll say something like, well, it's really tough to know because it might be the first time that they listen to the radio ad or the second time, or sometimes it takes seven or something like that. And then I'll just say, then how do I know whether I should spend $1 or, $1,000? And so, when it's radio, that or TV, they'll say that sort of thing. Same thing with print, they'll say that sort of thing. And then when it comes to things like Google AdWords, I've tried Google AdWords and they always talk about conversions. And so, okay, well, what does Google think a conversion is versus what I think a conversion is? I believe a conversion is somebody came in here and spent money. That's a conversion. They think they'll
Yep.
they'll come up with all sorts of different reasons why they believe it's a conversion. So, what I try to do is like I can measure how many new customers come in here a month. And so what I do is whenever let's just say I run an ad through Google AdWords, I'll check to see during that month, did the number of people relative to last year in that same month, did the number go up or down? And so that's one way I've tried to measure it. Marketing is an animal that I have not figured out yet.
Yeah, it can be tricky. There's a lot of different ways to swing it. We're kind of in a we're going after a different segment of the market. So otherwise, I would give you some things that have worked for us, but we're more B2B. You guys are B2C. I'm sure there's ways to effectively market on Facebook and things like that. We were actually talking with a stretch zone. That's I do I like to call it my trifecta. On Thursdays, I go in and I get a 2-hour massage. Big believer in massage. Get a 2-hour massage. My therapist, by the way, is the only one that actually will do 2-hour massages. You can't even go into the app and select a 2-hour. They have to manually put it in. So she's amazing. I've been going to her for like 12 years. Then after the massage, I'll go and get a stretch over at Stretch Zone. And then after that, I go over to BioWorks. It used to be called CryoFit. They do like plunges and injections and cryotherapy and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll do a 10-minute plunge. So that's kind of like my trifecta to keep my body limber. I do a lot of sitting. As you can see, I'm sitting right now. I'm an IT guy. So there's lots more sitting than standing, unfortunately. But you've got to keep yourself limber and in good condition, because as your body gets older, if you don't take care of yourself, then it'll catch up to you. But I love what you're saying about taking care of the therapist, because I don't know if everyone is like this, but I'm very much a loyal person to the therapist, not to the business. So for example, if my therapist left where she's working today, you know where I'd be going is wherever she's working at
Yeah.
next, not continuing to go to the
And
same
that's a
place.
struggle I've had a little bit. I mean, I do have a non-compete agreement with my therapist. And so I have had people leave in the past because they have different ideas about what they're trying to do. Maybe they want to try and go on their own. And I've struggled with that. I've never actually gone after anybody, as far as saying, like if I found out that they're working somewhere nearby or whatever. But because I mean, it's not like in your situation. I mean, it's not like it can force you to come to my place. You obviously like that person. So it's
Right.
a little bit of a difficult thing for me to know what the best answer to that situation is. I mean, I did just recently lose a therapist, and she's kind of gone off and done her own thing. And the main thing, I guess, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, with her, like what I've said is, like the people that you acquired while you're here, they should stay here. But I mean, at the same time, if a person wants to follow her, how am I going to stop them? So, it's a
Right.
difficult thing. I try to be fair to everybody, but like back to that whole marketing thing, like one of the things I do here is whenever I bring a new person on board, I do my best to try and make sure that their schedules are filled up, and I'll do things like I'll run a special where, like, if I have a new therapist that joins my team, I might run a special where if you book with that person during the first month or whatever, you get an additional 30 minutes for free. And so in that case, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
what I'm doing is I'm eating the cost of the additional 30 minutes because they're still getting paid their commission off of the additional 30 minutes, but it's giving them a chance to get their schedule filled up. And if people like them, then that they can, get their schedule filled up basically right away.
There are people.
But where it can burn me is if I'm working to try and get everybody's schedules filled up and then they decide to go off on their own and do their own thing and all the people that I put on their schedule then follow them. Like, okay. I don't know. It's just a difficult thing to try and like. I want to be fair to people, but I
It
also don't want to get screwed over either.
Yep. No, it's always a gamble with something like that. I think that's a really, really neat approach, and I think that builds good rapport with the massage therapist, saying that you're willing to eat that half hour in an attempt to help them fill their schedule out. All they have to do is just do a good job. You're going to push clientele their way. They just need to show up to work and do what they do best, which is giving people good massages.
Right.
When we go out and we work for several different franchisors, and we go and we do their new builds at their location. So they're like, oh, let me introduce you to Bill. He's opening up a new location in XYZ city, blah, blah, blah. We coordinate with them. We get them an estimate. We don't charge a location that's in a Fort Wayne, Indiana, where you're at, or somebody in San Antonio, Texas, any different price. It's the same for the same equipment, whether they're here or out of town. We eat the cost of the travel. The idea is the long-term relationship, the relationship we have with the franchisor, the relationship we're building with that new franchisee. As they open up their second and third and fourth location, we continue to build that recurring revenue, which is what you're after by getting the therapists booked and filled up, is then they have recurring clientele that comes in. So you're trading that initial, loss of revenue in exchange for long-term recurring revenues. And we don't have contracts, so the hope is that these franchisees will continue to use us long term, but they're not required to. They could go with somebody else, so we don't have any guarantees. We eat that cost. We have no guarantee they're going to use us for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but they could, and most of them do. as long as we just do a good job. So there's a trade-off, but I think you're approaching it from the right angle. I like
Well,
that
another, you
approach.
just made me think about another thing is like my cancellations, because it's always a balance. I'm always trying. So I'm trying to take care of my therapists. I'm also trying to take care of my customers. So like,
Hmm.
we have a cancellation policy where if a person cancels the same day, there's a 50% fee. And if they're a no-show, it's 100%. And so then but
Yep.
my therapists are paid on commission. And so, that helps, not have a blank spot, as far as the day goes. But periodically, sometimes maybe the credit card doesn't go through, or maybe the customer has their, let's just say there's somebody was in a car accident or something, it's something significant. It's not, they just forgot or whatever. So trying to balance that situation of, okay, I don't want to, I don't want to completely tick off my customers, but I also, if they don't show up, then my therapist isn't getting paid. So, there's different things I can
Yep.
do. One of the things I really need to work on is creating a better wait list. A wait list for each of my different therapists, so that if somebody, calls off last minute, then I have somebody on the bench potentially that could fill in. That's one of the things I really need to work on having better. Another thing I do periodically is sometimes I'll just talk to the therapist about, well, I mean, I could jump on your table and get a massage, so then I'm getting a massage for like, basically half price, and they're getting not a blank spot on their schedule. Plus I get a chance to kind of like, see how they're doing, see what their style is and that sort of stuff. So, that's one of the things I
Yep.
do periodically is if somebody has a blank spot on their schedule, I'll see if I'll just ask them, I'll say, would you want to work, or would you rather just take some time off? And just depends. Sometimes they're like, they'd rather just go ahead and take a break. And sometimes they're like, yeah, jump on my table. So, so that's one, but definitely in this world, when people are canceling last minute, that's one of my tougher things to deal with. Or another tough thing to deal with is when my therapist calls off. And I've been struggling with that a little bit, as far as like trying to hold my therapists accountable. One of the things for me, I may be a little bit too nice. And so, having a written set of these are our rules as far as if you're calling off or whatever is one of the things I've struggled with is trying to because I struggle because the therapists are the ones that make the money. And so, if they call off, I don't want to fire them because they're the ones that are, it's like firing your engine, So, I've struggled with the attendance policy for my place as far as my therapist goes. And then you can have a situation where a customer says, why should I pay your cancellation fee when, you guys canceled on me a month ago when your therapist called off? And so I'm like, that's a tough one to try and, to deal with. Uh,
Yeah. It it really is. I think, two things. I came up with an idea. One of our other clients is also runs a massage place, and they were struggling with trying to come up with an idea to fill their open spots. A lot of these therapists are get their spots filled by request. They're like repeat
yes.
customers, right? So I had an idea. Well, why don't we automate an AI attendant? Like therapist, we'll say her name's Jane, right? So that's one of your therapists, Jane. Jane has these 6 or 10 people that like to come in and see her. Well, Jane has a very high request rate, and she has her schedules often very filled, but you do get last minute cancellations. What if there was a list of clients that like to see Jane all the time, but maybe they forget? I mean, like, I'm busy. If I didn't book the entire year out with Sarah, I would get in a situation where I would try to, oh, let me see if she has availability. No, she's booked. Like, if I don't call in advance, she's booked. So it could be that your therapists are the same way. You get one that has a very high request rate, but if there's a cancellation last minute, reaching out to that wait list and calling them and saying, hey, were you thinking about getting a massage? Jane has availability tomorrow at 10 a.m. for an hour and a half. Would you be interested? Oh, yeah. Actually, I've been meaning to call you guys. Okay. Well, cool. Let me get you on the schedule. And then it books them. So it's filling that proactively so your front desk doesn't have to reach out. So that was one of the ideas. There's ways you can come up with automations and things like that to help keep those schedules filled. Or even if it's not her normal requested clients, maybe it's other clients. If you just kept a general list of people that have come in frequent enough to be ongoing customers. Do you guys do memberships or anything like that? Or how does your fee
Yeah.
structure
So we
work?
do have a membership. So the way that we have a couple different ways that the primary way is people do monthly. And it's where, so our regular rate for an hour massage is $100. And if you're a member, it's 70. And the way that our primary one works is you get charged $75 first of the month. And that gives you a credit for a massage or a facial, because we also do facials here. And so when you're checking out, instead of paying anything, you basically say, we call them benefits. So you say, we ask if you can use your benefit. And then you basically, the only thing you would have to pay for at that point is if you want to add a gratuity. And so that's kind of how our monthly membership is a 12-month commitment. I've been considering actually taking that 12-month commitment off. Generally speaking, if somebody cancels, I don't necessarily I don't think it makes sense to force somebody to get a massage. Those kind of go together. To me, massage is all about help everybody stuff that's weighing on them. And so what we do as massage therapists is we help to kind of take that stuff off of them. And so, a contract, a 12-month commitment contract is another kind of weight. And so I really have thought about getting rid of that 12-month commitment and then just doing a monthly thing where you just cancel at any point in time, as long as you give us, like, let's just say 30 days notice or something, like just enough to actually get it taken care of. But that's the primary one that most people do. And then I have a 6-month membership and a 12-month membership. And the way that those work is basically at the end of 6 months or at the end of 12 months, it's just done. With my 12-month membership, it just continues on. And so at some point in time, if you want to cancel your membership after that 12 months, you just send us either an email, or I have a little slip of paper that they can fill out. The main thing is that sometimes I've had somebody call me and say, I called in there like 6 months ago and told you guys that I wanted to cancel my membership, and I've been charged for like the last 6 months, and I want a refund. I'm kind of getting a dry throat here. I should have gotten some water before I started talking here. So that's an issue that as far as like, so I have the monthly members, and then I have the 6-month paid in full and a 12-month paid in full. And the 12-month paid in full is actually, you actually get 13. So the 12-month paid in full is actually the best deal, but you have $900 out of your pocket right up front. So the monthly one is a $75 a month thing. The paid in full ones, you have the money out of your pocket right up front. So it's a little bit, it just depends on which one works better for you.
Yeah, if you can get a discount though, or get a free hour, that's awesome. I think that's a great incentive and that gets you more money, cash up front.
Right.
So that's a great way to swing that.
That's the basic way that our membership works.
No, that's awesome. You were talking about attendance. I know that's always a challenge. So when my brought my COO on board back in like 2019, I didn't know he was going to be my COO. I didn't know what he was going to do. We met by chance through one of my worst employees. It's a very interesting story, but he, the amount of forward momentum that he's helped add to the company to get us where we are today is incredible. And one of the big things that he said he wanted to do once he started getting into that COO role was make it a place where people wanted to work, kind of like what you're doing, which I think is fantastic. Removing barriers, like you struggle with the attendance policy. I've had a hard time sometimes with our attendance policy because it's unlimited PTO, but you have to trust that people are going to be adults and make good choices, because otherwise we have conversations with people if they can't make good choices. But to this day, we've had people make good choices. We have certain things in place, like if there's more than 50% of a particular department that's going to be out, you need to get manager approval and things like that. But for the most part, it's just you put it on the calendar. Everyone knows you're out that day. Not a big deal. And everyone else covers. So it's a very friendly kind of family environment. We all look at each other as friends and family when we work, and it's a good environment. And that's what Shane wanted. Shane wanted to foster that type of environment at work, which is not common in a lot of places. A lot of places very much by the book, like you have this many tardies or absences, you're fired, automatic termination. And that's the kind of background he came from, like working at, corporate environments and things like that. So I applaud you for, doing your best to kind of try to massage everything and keep it all going, no pun intended, but to keep it all going in the right direction without being too stringent, but understanding that, it's difficult for the business to maintain if people are not showing up.
Yeah, the whole thing with the therapist is interesting because I have some therapists, kind of like your situation. I suspect that the person that you go to called off or whatever, you're not going to probably even try another one of their other people. If she called off one day, is there another person? Yeah. So, and I have therapists like that as well. And it's interesting, as far as the attendance goes, I would say, ironically, and this is something I got to think about, is that the people that call off more are also the people that they're not as requested. But those kind of go together. No, I mean, if you're calling off all the time, you're going to ruin your relationship with your customers. And so, my
Yep.
therapists that are, I have one of the measuring things that I measure is how much you're being requested. And my therapists that are requested a lot, um, whenever, like I said, whenever they call off, it doesn't even matter. They're like, okay, when can I get back on that person's schedule again? But those people, a lot of them, what they'll do is they'll put themselves on the schedule another day to try and make up for the fact that they called off. So they're taking it upon themselves to take care of their customers. And I think that, it's about building relationships. One of the things about massage, like I was
Yep.
telling you before, is we all have stuff that weighs on us. And so, in order to let go of some stuff, you really have to trust the person that's putting their hands on you. And so one of the ways I describe it is like if you were attacking me and I put my arm up to defend myself, it's kind of like what these different restrictions in our body are, is it's our body's natural defense. Well, if if I was still scared and I believed that I was in danger, I would keep my arm up. But eventually my arm's going to get fatigued and it's going to hurt. So I need somebody to help me believe that it's safe to put my arm down. And so when you build the relationship with your therapist, that's where you can have that true belief that maybe they can help me let go of this stuff. And so that's one of the things I think is super important as far as being a therapist is helping somebody believe that this is a place where they can actually let go of that stuff. One time I had a nurse practitioner that came in and I was working on her. And at the end of the session, she was up at the front desk and she says, Michael, that was like therapy. And I said, well, I am a massage therapist. And it is. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
definitely a form of therapy. I mean, like it can be as much as you let it be. I mean, I had a woman that I was working on years ago that she had some ablations done in her neck to kind of burn the nerves off because she was just in pain all the time. And so when I was working on her, I was like, well, can you tell me about like when did all this start happening? And she's like, about 15 years ago or something like that, or 10 years. I don't remember exactly what the time frame it was. And I was like, well, was there anything that happened in your life around that time and she goes, well, my twin daughters died. And I was like, okay. I mean, if you think about it, like if your child dies, it's almost like if you felt good, you'd feel bad about feeling good because how could I possibly feel good when my children are gone? I mean, it's so deep.
Yeah.
It's so
Uh,
such a deep pain and belief. And so when I was working with her, and talking to her, and so that's another thing, it's called dialoguing. So like so when you're working on somebody, you're feeling stuff, you're feeling where a knot is, whatever. But a knot could be there from a wide variety of different reasons. It could be because you were in a car accident. It could be because, your mom or your dad told you you're never going to be anything when you grow up. It could be because your child, died. There's all sorts of things that cause restrictions to be in our body. And they could be layered on top of each other too. So when I'm my hands on
right.
somebody, basically, I'm feeling the areas where things are hard and don't move that should be moving, but I'm also talking to them about when I find the spot and I'll talk to them about feeling into it. And then we'll talk about, if this is a social, is this bringing anything up? And so there's a lot to this besides just, rubbing somebody's shoulders.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny with my therapist, Sarah, that I've been seeing for so many years. She's probably one of my closest friends. I really, enjoy going in there to see her. We sit and chit chat about, life and the kids and all kinds of stuff. And I always have funny stories to exchange with her. When my wife and I first started dating, I was always very nervous to take my wife places because she's a very one and done kind of person. If I took her to we have a Mexican food restaurant that we love to go eat at and get tasty skinny margaritas called chispas. And I was afraid to take her there because if I took her there and she didn't like it, she would like never want to go there again. And so I would never be able to take her at any future point in time. Well, so I was nervous the first time I took her over to get a massage. And I said, oh, let's do a couples massage, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. We got done with the massage. And I asked her, I was like, well, how was your massage? And she's like, it was horrible. It's like, horrible. What happened? It's like, yeah, you and Sarah wouldn't shut the hell up. You guys talked the entire time. And I was like, well, that's what we do. We just talk the
That's
entire
the
time.
danger of couples massages. That's the danger of couples.
Oh yeah.
That's
And that's how you know you have a close connection with your therapist is when you're able to have a, 2-hour conversation with them like nothing. There's times that she'll have, like I usually have my Thursdays from 10 to 12 with her. If that 9 a.m. cancels, she's texting me and saying, "Hey, the 9 a.m. canceled. Do you want a 3 hour?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I do." So I'll go in there for a three
that's
hour.
in
It's like 3
I
hours.
own a massage therapy business. First of all, I've never had a 3-hour massage, and I've never even heard of a 3-hour massage. So that's interesting.
She's been doing it for so long. I don't know anybody else that would be able to have the stamina to do a
Yeah.
3 hour because she's definitely doing deep tissue the entire time. She's not just like I say, moving the fat
Yeah.
around. Like she's getting in there with elbows and forearms and
So that is so
yeah,
when you're
she's
talking
amazing.
about a couples massage, that's definitely one of the things I say to people is, like I talked about earlier, sometimes even if it's your significant other, sometimes it's difficult to let stuff go. I mean, when I'm individually working with somebody on the table in the room, it's just the two of us. There isn't somebody else hearing what we're talking about. It's to when you have a deep down something that's really in there that's really hurting you, whatever, it takes there's a difference between knowing something and believing something. A belief is thing that is
Yep.
just so foundational that sometimes you don't even know you don't even know it yourself. Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm working on people and they'll think, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was there. But it's because, if you actually go watch people walk down the street, you'll notice that like maybe they're walking like this, or maybe they're like this. And they don't even know that they're walking like this because their body has adapted to something that's hurting them, wherever it's hurting them, and it's protecting them. But that doesn't mean that it's gone. It's still in there. And so when I get somebody on the table, I mean, to me, my hands, my ears, well, my ears, when they're talking to me, my ears work as well. But when my hands are on them, I'm feeling around to feel, and as a matter of fact, actually, like 90% of the time when I'm giving a massage, I've got my eyes closed because, you know, this this is how I feel what's happening in their body. And so then when I find something, that's when we can kind of like, talk about, getting them to be connected with that part of their body, helping them. 'Cause a lot of times what happens is that spot will get locked down, and then it'll get numbed out, and then they won't even know it's there. And so bringing them to that part of their body so that they can be present with it, it's kind of like another way I describe it is kind of like a child. If a child stubs their toe or whatever and they're crying or whatever, and you put your arms around them to help them feel safe so that they can start coming, stop doing that. How kids get,
Right.
they're not even in their body. They're gone or whatever. And so part of this process is helping somebody get back into their own body and being present with that part of the body. Because sometimes I talk about like your body is almost like a separate being. It's like a child that you're helping your body say, it's okay. That yes, that thing happened, whatever it was happened, but it's not still happening. And so maybe it's possible for you to be free. Maybe it's possible if just this one time we just give it a little chance to open up and let go a little bit. It's kind of like a little baby step. Let's just see if being free is okay. And it's a process. You can't. You're probably not going to have a situation where somebody has some sort of deep down thing that's like they've been carrying around for a long time that you come in and you have one session and it's just gone. I mean, this stuff builds,
Right. You're helping to guide them to healing.
yeah, helping because their body knows how to heal itself. What our job is, what I see my job is to connect with the person, and then together, the two of us can feel that spot wherever the thing is and see if together we can help it let go. And that's what our job is as a therapist, is to help them be present with the area where the problem is and see if it's possible to let it go. And the main thing is we can't force. You can't, like, if I had my arm up and you've tried to force me to put it down, I'm just going to hold it up harder, right? And so
Right.
I have to help them believe that they can let it go. And I can't help them believe that they can let it go by forcing them to let it go. I have to help them get there. It's a process. It's a flow. It's not you can't force it. You have to listen. And the main two ways of listening is,
Sure, yeah, all of that's definitely
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Well, as we come down to our closing time, can you share a little bit about? We didn't talk much about technology. I know I said we would touch on that a little
yeah,
bit because I am into technology.
yeah.
Tell me what kind of technologies you use, and if you could wave a magic wand, like what would you change or automate or improve on to help your business?
Well, if I can wave a magic wand, it would probably be the marketing thing. So there's two different ways that when you're talking about technology. The main way I think about technology is is like, so I have a booking software that I use. In that booking software that I use, I have a marketing companion tool that will send out emails to my customers, ask them to give us a score of like 1 to 10. And then I have another technology that like gives us the ability, like if they call and we missed the call, it'll send them a text message saying, "Sorry, missed your call," and it'll give them the ability to try and book a massage through their phone by hitting like, 1 for massage, 2 for facial, and then and so it does that sort of stuff. So, for me, then you've got the website that my biggest focus has been on trying to make sure that I get good reviews. So I currently in Fort Wayne, there's only one other place in Fort Wayne that has more reviews than I do, and that's a franchise that's been here for 10 more years than I've been here. But I'm catching them, and also I've got I have 2 locations now, and at each location I currently have a 4.9 out of 5 stars on Google. So that's another type of way of, I think, of technology. As far as in the technology, as far as I don't have anything like machines for people. To me, it's an interesting dynamic. I'm torn sometimes about like these things about upgrades, like hot stones or CBD oil, or to me, the most valuable thing I can give to a customer is my hands. Because this is the thing that I use to this is it. And so sometimes I
Right,
get torn about like, adding in some hot stones, because I mean there is some value in hot stones as far as like, the warmth can help to kind of melt the muscles and the fascia or whatever. But for me, these are my number one valuable tool that I have. There are other things you can use. You can use like bamboo sticks and things like that. You got to be careful with that sort of thing because you can't feel with the stick. I can feel with my hand. I can feel with my elbows. You know,
right. The
I
resistance.
mean, you can't feel with, a piece of bamboo. It's a dead piece of wood in your hands. There's other things like cupping, which is another thing. The nice thing about cupping is, it suctions, which is definitely, most of the time when we're doing massage, we're pushing into the body. Definitely cupping has a kind of a different, it's a completely different thing. It's kind of sucking things out. So, which is kind of a different thing. There's another tool called a gua sha tool. The idea of a gua sha tool is basically it kind of scrapes and kind of breaks the, the, the surface and kind of brings toxins to the surface is the idea behind that. And so there are, there's tools that you might consider technology. I've been trying to learn like about artificial intelligence and how some of the artificial intelligence, like having like I had through I have an artificial intelligence thing. My texting thing is called Bowtie dot, and it has a little like a little widget that can go on my website, but it was struggling.
Okay.
It was struggling to determine which location, and it was causing me more issues than it was helping me. When a person wanted to book at my Southwest location versus my North location, it was struggling to
Right.
differentiate between the two. I have a buddy that he's a web designer right now, that he's in the process of trying to create a new booking software. And so I was actually just talking to him a couple nights ago about um, about that software and how well does it integrate with artificial intelligence, because I really would like to use some artificial intelligence. Like, so for example, with my therapist, every one of my therapists is different. Some of them will do 2-hour massages. Some of them only want to do a 60-minute massage. Some of
Right.
them will do prenatal massages. Some of them won't do prenatal. So I was thinking if I could have all my therapists basically put all their information into an artificial intelligence thing, that then whenever I have a front desk person, they could just ask the artificial intelligence, who does this or who does that or whatever, and it would tell them. So whenever I bring a new front desk person on or whatever, it helps them to know what because that's one of the hardest things is learn for a front desk person is learning. It's like a menu. I'm assuming, I don't know if you've ever
Who to put
a
them with.
waiter or whatever, but learning the menu is kind of like learning what all the different therapists do for my front desk.
Right.
And that's a thing I've thought about too is I went to this, there's a place in town that has these massage chairs and it's operated remotely where you just go there. And when you get there, you type in the code to get in the door or whatever, and then you just go sit in the chairs. And I've thought about having like basically a remote person that like you see them, but they're not actually here. I don't know. I think there is some value in having a human person that when you walk in the door, you're actually there,
Greet it with somebody.
greeted by
Yep.
an actual person. And generally speaking, I think as far as social media and all the things that we got going on right now, I think that the best thing that we can do is have actual human to human interaction. And that's where I think actually massage kind of goes against like where all the different technologies are. And that's actually another thing that's interesting about me. I mean, I'm a massage therapist, but I am also into technology. And a lot of my massage therapists are sort of, they don't even want to know anything about tech. They want to be, they're just more earthy. They're more into the earth and not caring about computers. And so one of the things that I bring value is I'm kind of the bridge between my therapists and technology. I'm into
That's
all these
awesome.
different kinds of technology, and they just want to be they want to be a massage therapist. It's great. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain, so it kind of works out where I'm into massage, but I'm also into technology, so I'm into a little bit of everything.
Best of both
Yeah.
worlds. Yep. So if our listeners wanted to reach out to you and find more about your services or possibly get a membership, how would they do that?
So the easiest way is my website, massageworksfw.com, which is MassageWorks Fort Wayne. That's what the FW stands for. And that has all of our stuff. You can schedule an appointment online through massageworksfw.com. I have a page as well, and I'm pretty sure you can schedule through that as well. But my main thing is my website or my phone number 260-459-1111. That gets you to the phone actually rings at both of my locations. And so if you choose option one, it'll take you to the north location, but on my phone, it'll say north, and I'll just answer saying Massage Works North, even though if I'm at my southwest location, because I can schedule either location from either location. All my
Right.
booking stuff is online. So 260-459-1111 is my phone number, and massageworksfw.com is the website. And so those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time today, Michael. I really enjoyed chatting with you. And like I said, we work with a lot of other massage places. And so I've got that background, and it was interesting to hear about your journey and how you got into the industry. And I love the story about getting the other location after you purchased that location. It's all that entrepreneurial stuff I really enjoy. Maybe we can catch up again on another chat farther down the road and see where you guys are going and what you guys are doing. But I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest
Thank
of your
you.
week.